state, like I did before, I would much prefer to be meeting at 8 a.m., especially after a long day. And I apologize that we have a lengthy agenda here. It's just the way kind of the building has been operating. And so glad to be able to bring some of this up today. So we're going to go to the first bill you'll see on your agenda, House Bill 13. Call that up. And what HB 13 does is it gives an exemption from DFA pre-approval. This is given and related to construction and maintenance of public, community, and junior college buildings. It gets them this pre-approval requirements from DFA. The exemption applies to projects that are funded in part or in whole by general obligation bonds or other state funds. It allows the local and community college boards to procure and administer these contracts independently if they determine that's the best cause for them. It maintains oversight for other institutions and has an effective date of July 1 of 2025. Yield for any questions. Senator Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first question, is there a cap on the amount?
Let me check with council to see. I don't remember an amount of the exemption in here. No, there's not a cap in it.
Battery's going dead on this one, but is there, if I read the bill correctly, that we've got just a few exemptions for IHL institutions, but not all are exempted. Is that correct? And then
that is correct. I think while community, I've got a little note here, while community and junior colleges gain this exemption, state agencies, institutions, commissions, board, and authorities must still submit architectural and engineering service contracts to DFA for pre-approval. So they still have to go through the process. It just gives them the exemption of that pre-approval from DFA was the explanation that I got from it. It has been a long day. And it's not the bill that's kind of at the top of my mind. So I'll be glad to get with them and get some questions answered on it. And I know we probably have people in the room who can get those questions answered, but continuing to look into the same answers on the bill that we passed out the last time we were meeting, because I have similar questions on both of them.
Yeah, I think some of the same questions, but I think more directly would be that, by way of example, Southern Miss have to get pre-approval, but none of our community colleges would have to get pre-approval under this proposal. Is that correct?
I'm not certain. Again, it's a House bill, and I'm just trying to move it along the process, and I will get with council and verify those questions and get those answered. I think, it's kind of tied up with the other bill that we were mentioning, where we were giving some exemptions to IHL at a certain level for different, construction manager at risk issues and that kind of thing. So I'm not certain as to the answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good questions, and we'll try to get those answers from the author of the bill and from the interested parties from the CJCs before we bring it up on the floor. Great questions. Any other questions on the bill? If not, is there a motion?
Motion's title sufficient, do pass.
Motion of title sufficient, do pass. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, chair is in doubt. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? The bill fails. Okay, we'll go to item number 2 on the agenda. HB 186, Energy Efficiency Service Public Contracts Extend Repealer on. This is the same bill that we passed out of this committee earlier, just extends the repealer. We're taking up the House bill because of the referral that was done, and there was One small change let's see. The bill explicitly states that an entity such as a school, college, government agency, or public-owned hospital may use any sources of funds available to enter into these contracts. Previously, the law allowed these contracts, but did not clearly specify that any type of funding could be used. So it's just a cleanup in the same bill. Again, this bill passed out to extend this repealer. So I yield for any questions. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion's title sufficient, do pass.
Motion of title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is that what you were supposed to do
Yeah,
now?
it's okay.
Okay, the next bill, I'll recognize Senator Barrett to present. House Bill 767, we'll call that one up, and Senator Barrett, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The current statute 551521, you can see it's approximately 5 lines there. The new addition to the statute is beginning at the end of line 17 through 32. And ultimately what it does is increases the number of commission members. The law is currently there's 5 members, all must be resident citizens of Claiborne County. This bill will add 2 additional members, increasing the total to 7. There's some changes in the appointment process. 5 members will continue to be appointed by the governor from Claiborne County, and that's the current law. 1 additional member will be appointed by the governor from the state at large, but only after considering recommendations from the Speaker of the House. 1 additional member will be appointed by the lieutenant governor from the state at large. And finally, there's a transition plan for existing members. Those members serving before July 1st, 2025 will continue their term. When a current member's term ends, the governor will fill that position following the new structure. This would take effect on July 1st, 2025. That's a explanation of the bill. Mr. Chair, I yield for any question.
Any questions on House Bill 767? We have motion title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll stick with Senator Barrett, and we'll go down to House Bill 1293 first. You're going to present this one too. A similar kind of issue. You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 1293 deals with the Pat Harrison Waterway District. The primary purpose of this bill modifies the eligibility criteria for appointments to the Board of Directors of the Pat Harrison Waterway District. The bill aims to prevent certain county officials and employees from serving on the board, ensuring that the board members do not have conflicts of interest due to their positions in county government. Ultimately, it prevents conflict of interest. It enhances board independence, promotes transparency and accountability, and that's an explanation of the bill, Mr. Chairman. I yield for any question.
Senator McMahon?
Thank you. I have a question. So Representative Lott is not an author on this bill. It's just by request. And so does he represent that area? Or her? It could be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will say, I did get a good phone call from our former Sergeant at Arms, who's now a mayor of a small town in the area. And he expressed his desire to want to see this and the reason for that in that area. So I did have some verification from someone outside of the author who did bring it to attention.
Just surprised that it's by request.
I believe too, if I remember from Mr. Hux, that this is something that Senator DeBar has some interest in too. And for, I think, the same reason that Sergeant Arms, former Sergeant Arms. I do. I do think it had the asterisk indicating that it was by request.
Any
Any
other
further
questions?
questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion of title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that bill will be reported. I'm gonna go to the next one, 917. Public Records Act exempts certain records containing client information concerning development projects. This is a bill that Senator Hobson and Representative Lamar have been working, I think, diligently the last couple of years to try to get through. Hope I'm not speaking out of turn for Senator Hobson on this, but what it does is it gives an extended public records exemption. The records will be held by a public body that are held by a public body that contain client information about development projects will be exempt from public records request for 4 years after the information is received. While a project proposal is under review or negotiation, client information remains confidential, and specific investment breakdowns and tax incentive agreement documents under the INFLEX Act will also not be subject to disclosure. And in my previous chairmanship of economic development, we worked pretty diligently to put INFLEX in place, and a number of these potential projects have information that maybe other states might want to get in trying to make an offer on a project we're looking at. And so this comes to us, I believe, from our economic developers. And Senator Hobson, you can maybe comment on more if we need to just level the playing field with us and keep this information close to the vest until we have an announcement that's made. Is that a fair explanation, Senator Hobson? Any questions on the bill or clarifications from anyone?
I make a motion.
A motion, title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that bill will be reported. We're going to jump back up now to House Bill 924, the CLEAR Act. And to give you a little background on this, this comes to us from the House and has a lot of code section in it. The reason for this is the House has the idea that the peer bills, and we do have the chair peer, with us today, could be better presented in this concise kind of package where we can go through and address that all at one time. And so I'm going to go through the changes in here. Again, these are all recommendations that come from peer, with one exception that I'll describe to you at the end. And then I've also ahead of time spoken with Senator Robinson because she may be able to answer some specific questions should they arise on this. But the first section of the bill has to do with clarification of funding sources. The bill explicitly states that an entity such as a school board or a school, college, government agency, or publicly owned hospital may use any sources of funds available to enter into energy service contracts. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I apologize. So I go back here. The first section is oversight of state agency rules. This establishes a program within peer committee to review newly adopted state agency administrative rules. The committee will assess whether these rules conform to legislative intent and will make reports that will be submitted to the legislature annually. I believe there's an amount or a number of these in the bill that they will be trying to take up. And again, this is just to look at some of these administrative rules within the state agencies. The second portion of the bill has to do with education policy. First section is technology and disaster recovery. The State Department of Education must aid school districts in creating technology plans and disaster recovery strategies. A biannual survey will assess school district technology capabilities. There is a section here involving investigations of school personnel. It standardizes the procedures for investigating the school district employees within this statute. Within the SNAP program or school nutrition program support, the State Department of Education will provide resources to improve school nutrition programs. As far as school district accounting procedures, the department will conduct an annual review of accounting standards to improve financial clarity and accuracy. Transportation, the department will assist districts in optimizing school bus routes for cost effectiveness. Again, that's another separate section that comes to us from Peer to make some improvements there. Next section of the bill has to do with Medicaid and healthcare regulations. In the Medicaid non-emergency transportation program, Peer will conduct performance evaluations every 3 years to assess cost efficiency of the non-emergency transportation program. I have spoken to Senator Blackwell about this, and we're making sure that any change in that is going to conform to the changes that he is making in Medicaid as this moves along. And I do want to mention too that I am also working with Senator DeBar to make sure any changes that we make in here reflects any changes he has going on in education. The fourth section of the bill is education scholarship accounts. It revises the funding formula and adjusts the ESA programming funding so that the amount equals the adjusted base student cost, eligibility requirements, and there's a new application process for private schools seeking ESA participation. There is a companion bill on this section here that Senator DeBar modified and passed over to the House. And with council, what we did was we adjusted the peer language to match what the Senate passed and inserted that exact bill in here. And I don't remember the bill number, but 2601 is the bill number. So that is language that did pass through education that we moved over to the House that seems in jeopardy at this moment. Section 5 of the bill, the prison work program adjustments. This requires wage calculation transparency. It clarifies that deductions from wages under the prison industry's work initiative program must be based on post-mandatory deduction earnings. It increases financial accountability by requiring the reporting of dependent support payments, fines, and restitution. Those are the only changes within the prison work program that Peer has suggested for us. Section 6 of the bill is charter school regulation. It has to do with charter school board terms. It establishes staggered terms for members of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board and authorizes the charter school board to receive up to 3% of annual per pupil allocations. Again, as recommended by Peer. Section 7 is legislative and government transparency. This gives the peer committee subpoena enforcement, criminal penalties for noncompliance with committee subpoenas. And I believe the peer committee has expressed some frustration that they have sometimes been unable to compel people to come and discuss important matters with their committee at certain times. Section 8 is a state self-insurance initiative. This is a study on self-insurance for state property. This will form a task force to assess the feasibility of self-insuring state-owned buildings and make some report and recommendations. Again, this is just a study type of thing. The report of this should be due by November 1 of 2025. And then the last thing the bill does is, you'll recall, we talked in depth about the mental health task force that I think some in this room worked on during the summer. This bill also includes a provision that requires Department of Mental Health, Education, all of the parties to work together under the guidelines of the board in the ICI board that you'll remember me presenting on the floor. And it puts that language in here as well. And I know it's late in the day and we just talked about 8 bills or so. I bring this up because I know this has been well vetted by Peer. I've had detailed discussions with the chair. There were a couple of provisions in here. I know Senator McMahon, earlier in the session, there was a Peer bill that had to do with property rights that was also within this bill. And due to some reservations of some different people as we went along. I did remove that part, and I do look forward to working with Senator McMahon on that further. But to just decrease any type of sideline kind of discussions on it, I wanted to make sure that everything in here had been well vetted and that we had discussed in detail. So that was a long explanation on a long day. I yield for any questions. Senator Turner Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to be sure that you were mentioning sections, but they did not actually correlate to the section
Right.
numbers in the bill. So where's the portion about the ESAs?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm sorry, we are on a strike call, and this does have a reverse repealer in it, as introduced.
Motion to adopt the strike all.
Got a motion to adopt the strike call. All in favor of
I had
adopting
a
the strike
I
call?
was waiting on an answer to my question.
Yeah, that's a motion that is ahead of. So
Thank you.
we're still on the motion to adopt the strike call, and we'll get back to a question in a moment. So move adoption of the strike call. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're on the strike call now. Senator Turner Ford, you recognized. Are there other questions on the bill? Senator Blunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I heard you say that everything in this bill, and it's a wide variety of topics, is recommended by the peer committee. I think you said except for one thing.
Except for the mental health task force bill that I mentioned at the very end. I'm not sure where council had that in the final version when she was making the changes, but that was, I can get you the bill number for that we did pass.
It's just a mental health task force. That's it.
Yes.
And
Well, it's the recommendations from the mental health task force that required the departments to work together to try to find solutions to the mental health issues from the mental health task force over the summer.
and with regard to what some people call ESAs and charter schools, the language is as approved and recommended by the members of the peer committee.
Yes, and my intention on that too is if there is any attempt to get us into different issues, the purpose of this bill is to recognize the work of the peer committee and to keep us on track with the peer committee. And if with a reverse repealer in it, if we did get into something outside of those parameters, I would find that to be a killing type of amendment or change to the bill and is not the purpose at all of this vehicle. Yeah, so
Thank
I'll
you.
make that guarantee to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you talk about the State Board of Health Professionals?
So there was a provision in here about creating a super board that included members of medicine, nursing, chiropractic, dentistry, optometry, and then 5 members from the governor. I had a number of people from all of those professions reach out to me, and their concern was that if and what that language had in there, and that has been removed from the bill just for the committee's discussion here. The concern was that that group was to try to set the scope kind of discussions for the state. And the concern was that if the governor, for example, chose to appoint, say, 5 nurses, then that committee might be very heavily weighted towards their practice. Or if the governor chose to, appoint, so that as those industries came to me and talked to, and I did have discussions with Senator Robinson about this, I did have reservations about that and concern that that might not produce the effect that the peer committee recommended. And I know that was one of your bills, Senator Blackwell, and I'll be glad to talk to you about the concerns that those groups came to me about. So great question. So again, I'll just say I tried to remove any and everything in here that had any type of controversy attached to it, at this stage of the game. Senator Barrett. Oh, that was, oh, yeah, my bad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think maybe this is what Senator Turner Ford was maybe asking. On line 1939 through 1942, the department shall implement an application or authorization process to determine the eligibility of non-public schools to participate in the ESA program, ensuring that non-public schools meet the standards set out by law. Are we, I guess my question would be, by that language, are we allowing or opening a hole for, because I'm really ignorant to this and I want to know, are we allowing public dollars to go to private institutions?
I'm hoping Senator Robinson can give a answer to that question. I do have that same concern in how you read that there. So, Senator Robinson.
Thank you. So here reviewed the process, and they had several recommendations. And I think this is the section that you're speaking about, because it is a huge, huge section here. You said line 119. That has to do with the education scholarship amount. Is that the one you're speaking about? Okay, good.
1930.
1939 through
They
1942.
were looking at resources because they're limited in that ESA program, and there's a waiting list, and they wanted to allow students with disabilities to be able to get into the program. And what the request was that they would revise the funding formula so that the amount would equal the cost of the state's education funding formula, which is the same amount as two other non-public choice school in the scholarship program, if that's making any sense so far. Okay, so they're looking at basing it on the education funding formula.
And I guess my follow, I'm trying to follow you. I guess my follow-up would be, I understand you said they're basing it on the education funding formula, but this to me reads like
Mhm.
the department is setting up an application to determine the eligibility, not the funding formula as much as creating an application for eligibility of non-public schools to participate in the ESA program. So
Yes.
that sounds,
Yeah, they're implementing the process for schools to become eligible, or a process by which the schools may be approved by MDE. That's what they're looking at doing, an accreditation process. And it requires the non-public schools periodically to report to the Department of Education the services the participants are receiving. And then on top of that, they're getting a participant's academic performance report. They're assessing the limit and types of assessments that the ESA students can take in either nationally standardized or normal referenced achievement test or current state board approved test to have a pre-assessment and a post-assessment to make sure that the students are learning what they need to learn in the process.
I think my final question would be, line 1939 through 1942, does this apply only to school age or students with disabilities?
Yes, that's my understanding. And I can, Ted Booth with Pierce here, and he can verify that. But yes, that's my understanding. ESA is just for students with disabilities.
Thank you.
If this bill does move along, of course, I'm going to be working and talking with Senator DeBar about any and every change that we have involving education. I do believe that he had a bill that dealt with some part of that, but I'm not
Yes.
sure on the language, and we will certainly verify that. And if this bill does move along through the process.
And there's another point that I just wanted to mention, because I was surprised about this, that there are 515 ESA participants attending 109 non-public schools, and they use an average of 96% of those ESA funds, so on tuition expenses.
And council, will you make some notes about that section? And I want to reach out to, we'll probably have some detailed discussions with Senator Blunt about that, because I'm pretty sure he's going to have a question or two about that. And then we'll reach out to Lance Evans and see if they have any opinion on that as well, because that's certainly a area that we need to get some answers on. So there are further questions on the bill? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion's title sufficient to pass.
Yeah, we've adopted strike all. Again, this does have a reverse repealer in it. We'll be going to conference if we move forward with it. So, motion of title sufficient do pass strike all. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that bill will be reported. Okay, the next bill is, House Bill 1094. This is the exact bill as Senate Bill 2696 that gave an exemption to the State Department of Health to basically save the state $500,000. This passed, I believe, unanimously on the Senate floor. Exact same language. We just are taking the House version of this bill. There are questions on the bill. Again, it's Senate Bill 2696 was the Senate companion bill to this. Questions on the bill? Seeing none, is there a motion? Motion title sufficient do pass. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that bill will be reported. Next bill is House Bill 1388, which comes to us from Department of Public Safety. This bill was double referred to Judd B and AET. They did, I believe, put a reverse repealer in it in Judd B because the chair of Judd B still had some questions about the bill. He has asked that we continue to move this ball along. He essentially, so no reverse repealer in it? Okay, so they took out the provisions, brought forward the code section, because in committee they had a number of questions that came up on it. And I've just been asked at this stage on the last day to keep this alive for Commissioner of Public Safety. And Senator Fillingham certainly can provide better answers on what his intentions are with this bill. So is there a motion to keep moving this one along? We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that bill will be reported. And we're now on to my favorite bill of the day, the last one. This is House Bill 958. And this comes to us from Senator Williams, and I don't know, Senator Delano always hides from me. Sometimes he sneaks in and he just kind of over to the side. Comes to us from our technology experts in the room. And I will say that this bill in front of you does have a reverse repealer. There have been some questions raised today that we want to get some answers to, but the primary purpose of the bill is to eliminate outdated exemptions within the ITS service spectrum, make changes to IT procurement and contracting, to reorganize ITS powers and duties, and to enhance cybersecurity oversight. Some of the procurement questions in here, we want to be sure that whatever changes we make are still requiring the type of reports and feedback to interested parties in the legislature on what is happening in that space. But I've asked Senator Delano in particular to be available for questions. So yield for questions for Senator Delano if there are any. A motion title sufficient do pass as amended. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that was our last bill.
No, I have a motion I'd like to discuss. I would like to motion to reconsider House Bill 13, motion to reconsider the vote by which it failed.
You're recognized. You're recognized.
So, for all of you that know, I've been sitting here thinking about it, and I talked with Senator Hobson. Our community colleges are vital economic partners most of the time. If you have a company coming in your area, most of the time, they're going to be a partner. I voted against the bill because there was originally a cap in it, and now the cap's been removed. But I'm going to ask the committee to motion to reconsider, and I'm going to change my vote. And I think I got the support of the chair. If we put a reverse repealer in it, we don't want to do anything that hurts anybody in the state economically. There could be a project or a lab that's going to be built, and we might be doing that unknowingly. So I would ask you to vote in favor of the motion to reconsider the vote by which it failed.
Thank you, Senator McMahon. And I know, on a deadline day, we have bills kind of pop up at the end of the day, and we're all tired. And I probably did not do as good a job of explaining the bill because I think I've been in committee meetings since I walked in the door until this moment today. So I will entertain that motion that we reconsider the vote by which House Bill 13 died. So all in favor of reconsidering the vote by which that bill failed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, so we are back on the bill now.
I'd like to make a motion to add a reverse repealer to that legislation.
Are there questions on that amendment, first of all? So the amendment, as suggested by Senator McMahon, would be to add a reverse repealer to the bill. Any questions? You ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the bill now has a reverse repealer in it. Now we're back on the bill that we discussed earlier. Are there questions on the bill now?
Title sufficient do pass as amended.
Any questions on the bill? Seeing none, the motion is title sufficient do pass as amended. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe that completes our business. Thank you, Senator McMahon, for bringing that to our attention.
My motion is to rise and report.
So moved.